Okay, folks, welcome back to another fantastic episode of Opali Presents Know Your Pros. And today's guest, we have the exciting, the exuberant Charles Antis of Antis Roofing and Waterproofing. They have been keeping families safe and dry for over 30 years, serving businesses that need HOA work, multi-tenant, commercial, roofing, and waterproofing. Charles, thank you so much for making time to be a guest with us today.
I'm super excited to be here. I love the energy you start with. Let's continue.
Let's rock it out. Charles, I always ask three whys when I have a guest here on the show. And the first why is always, why is it that you got in business for yourself? You are a titan of LinkedIn and a philanthropic dynamo. And reading your origin story was really cool because it started at the very beginning, obviously, but it began with you on the roof there doing your own work. I mean, tell us a little bit about how that started.
Well, I grew up in Oregon. I grew up in Myrtle Creek, Oregon, population 3,000, where every man I knew worked in the forest, cutting trees or in the plywood mills. And so I was a laborer. That's all I knew. But I was astonished by the man at the end of the parade that owned the oil company that would hand out dimes and the way he'd hold my stare. I was fascinated by that, but I was taught as a laborer. But I ended up in Southern California, where I always wanted to live at 21, because I got a job knocking on doors selling insulation. And I thought, well, this is good. I've never had a sales job before, but I started knocking on doors to sell insulation. And I'm 21. I've only done labor. I sell this family, and I loved this family. And anybody that does sales knows that it's so much easier when you love who you sell to. And I love this family. I remember them very well. They were deaf. The mom and dad were deaf. They had kids that were about 12, 13. And they were so enthusiastic about this insulation I'd sold them that was going to save them money on their annual heating bills. And it was great. The gas company was subsidizing it. It was great. I just done what the company told me. The next day I went to pick up a check, but they didn't answer the door. And I knocked again, and they didn't. I saw the guy. He actually saw me. I thought maybe he didn't hear me, but he saw me. But he was on this little telephone device. The next thing you know, I feel these footsteps coming toward me, and I'm wondering what that is. I turn around, and there's this little woman. She's probably 2 feet shorter than me, but she comes up to me, and she's holding papers, and she says, "You get out of here." I said, "You don't understand. I'm here I'm friends of this family. I sold them." She goes, "I know exactly who you are. You promised them they were going to save money on their air conditioning when they don't even have a bill of more than $50 a month. You're a fraud. Get out of here." And I thought at first that she was the bad guy, but then I realized it was me, that I was selling a family, people that I love, something that I was going to get paid for. I was going to get probably $1,000 on this sale. And she bluntly reminded me that the terms of my company were not the benefit at all, and what we was selling was not helpful. And I held myself in such low esteem in that moment. I walked off that porch. Still to this day, I would love her to see me this day because things are different, but I quit that job and I looked for a job. And remember, I was a laborer. I grew up as a laborer. And so I looked around, and the only job I can see in Southern California back in 1983, the only job I could see was that in the roofing industry. So that's when I entered with no experience. But I discovered that I had the talent to solve people's pain, to keep a family from suffering, making their shelter solid, that basic need of shelter, providing it, keeping them safe and dry, which you can see right behind me, which really started to fulfill me. And that became the opposite of what I experienced on that porch with that deaf family, that I was selling them something that was not getting value. There became something inherently beautiful about using these hands that were taught to work hard, now providing this basic need of shelter and keeping families safe and dry. But that is the moment. I have to tell you, it didn't stop there, because during that same first year when I got my business going, I got a call from a woman, and she had leaks in every room. And I went out there with the intention of, making money for my small company. But as I got toward the neighborhood, the homes were getting more disheveled. I saw graffiti in some homes, and then until finally I turned on the street where I knew the home would be, and I didn't even see it. I had to drive past this house, and I saw this setback home, dead grass all around it. It was small, but I knocked on the door, and this woman answered the door with a different experience than what I thought I was going to get. She answers the door, and I see this expression on her face, and it looks pained. And I don't know what I'm going to say, but I'm about to say something. When the second impression hits me, it's the smell of mildew that's so vile. I nearly have to step backwards immediately. But as I start to step back, now wondering what I'm going to say as I leave, I get the third impression. It's a tug at my finger. And instead of this woman's stare and my expression, I see this little beaming face, this little like 6-year-old girl, looks like her mom, but she's happy and she's pulling me in her home. And I have no choice but to follow her through this crowded living room into this kind of a crooked hallway until she turns into her room, which was easy to see because she's smiling and pointing to this poster, this My Little Pony poster on the wall. But that was the moment I looked down at her feet and I saw a moldy mattress and moldy bedding where she slept. And that was a painful moment for me. The empathy that I think is eluding in the audience now and how I can see it today was not what I felt. I felt trapped. I felt hot, like I might pass out. I didn't know what I was going to do as that girl smiled at me until her mom walked back in the room and I saw the look on her face again, the same one. And something happened where I said something. I thought there was an intention in me that was never there before. There was something that was bigger than the moment where I thought, what if I could? And I said, maybe I can help you with your roof. And I'm thinking immediately, what did I say? Wanting those words back. But going up on the roof after and seeing they needed a new roof and then somehow finding the way to get the volunteers, not having a company with any means yet, but finding a way to use my skill to donate the first roof I ever donated during that first year I was in business. I mean, that experience was a transformational experience from, again, where I started, my first experience living out on my own in Southern California, and then transcending into a business model that somehow learned in that first year that no matter what, no matter how painful it was, there could be a way that I could donate, that I could give something that was the skill that I love so much, which is keeping families safe and dry. So that's kind of my story wrapped up in a nutshell, how it got started.
I mean, like, it's turned into just like a history at Antis of, giving back. I mean, that is part of the foundational tenet of what your business is now. And whether it's giving back through the American Red Cross, the Boys and Girls Clubs, Habitat for Humanity, the Ronald McDonald House, I really could go on. I mean, that is what does make your business different. I mean, that is the unique piece of who you are. And I mean, like, most business owners wouldn't think of doing that in 1,000 years, especially in their first year of business. But it feels to me, from my impression of you, Charles, that has really shaped, foundationally what your company delivers, right?
Well, I think that's a really good point. I mean, it was there, the intention. I can't possibly, but what if I could? And then all of a sudden I could. I just experienced that this weekend. I just got back from GAF Wealth Builder, GAF, which is the largest manufacturer in the United States for roofing membranes and materials, and also the leading donor. They donate everything I've ever asked them. When I got to go speak at their Wealth Builder, and all they talked about was giving. They had the most successful contractors in the country that has more wealth at these small contractors in a small country, and they're showing them their need to give back. They're trying to use people like me that experience it, that tells them why it's productive, but also there's an obligation to. And what it is intention, because when the Ronald McDonald House, you mentioned that, Ronald McDonald House, the roofing industry donates every roof on every home in the US. And the reason that happens is they listen to my story. The reason I wear these socks on my feet, these Ronald McDonald socks, because my children were born premature in Chalk NICU, Children's Hospital of Orange County. And Ronald McDonald House kept me close one day so I could lay Charlie skin on skin on my chest so he could heal. And the twins are 100% healthy today. And I told that story, and now we donate all of the roofs. But the story I wanted to tell about GF is they came to me with that concept. It was first out there before all the contractors said, we'll do it. And they said, Charles, it was Andy Hilton, their VP. I don't know how, but what if we could donate every shingle on every house? And it was that big intention. That's what we feel at Antis. That's why I always have like community corner. I always have like branding on me where I can talk about, I have Habitat for Humanity. I have Ronald McDonald House. I have the Boys and Girls Club now. I got to tell the stories of how somehow this small roofing company in Southern California has donated this year will be 99 roofs in a row for Habitat for Humanity. That's impossible, but it's that same thing. Like, what if we could? And every time we think, what if we could? And we learn to not say no, we just think maybe, and we go to sleep with that. Maybe we can. It's like we wake up and the whole universe has shifted. I don't understand. We get a random phone call the next day. Is this, and that say, hey, we had these shingles. What? That's so weird. I just got this ask yesterday, but I didn't say no. So we believe that when we think that there's possible to do so together as an industry, we can do great things. And GAF thinks the same way. And that's got me excited when you posed it that way.
Well, I mean, Charles, one of the big reasons why I originally called you guys up and said, hey, can we please get Charles as a guest on our show? It's because what you just described is exactly the reason why we started this series in the first place. Know Your Pros isn't just about, getting a better understanding of who that business is, but why is it that they do it? And why we do this is to, give back and show off, some of the great businesses in the areas where we grew up. And, nothing is more impactful than having a charitable aspect of a business. And you guys do a killer job at just that. Charles, I could talk to you for such a long time here, man, but I do have to wrap things up. I want folks to know how they can get in touch with Antis Roofing and Waterproofing and some of the things that you might want to point out for the description of this video here.
Wow. Well, first of all, I think as a community, whether you're in the trades or you're in the Orange County or in the Southern California environment, as a community, we're more powerful together. So the most important thing that I think out of this is not more sales for Antis. It's more community work. It's more thinking community. It's more connectedness. It's more thinking like we're all connected to the same tribe. And the best way you can do that is just be connected. Be connected with me on LinkedIn. And if you're on the other social channels, follow Antis. I'm only personally involved where I'll tell stories about why I'm doing what I'm doing nearly every day. Honestly, sometimes it's overwhelming. I just got back from this major conference and I'm not quite ready to tell all the stories yet, but living and with this intentionality that I will is the magic. And I want to share that and reciprocate with you. If you are or know somebody that's on the board of an HOA in Southern California that does struggle with having deeper meaning in the companies, then please reach out. You can reach out to me at charles@antisroofing.com. That's ANTIS as in Sam, roofing.com. You can reach out to me and contact me. We'd appreciate that. But I also have to tell you, we've never been more backlogged with work because we have record rains, which I'm grateful for. Though it's a new condition, a new economy of things if you're waiting for roofing services in California. So I'm going to help you in postponing a lot of the roof work as if you can and keeping you safe and dry in the meantime. So thank you so much for pointing out the good that's going on in business, especially when folks pause to ask why.
That's right. Well, Charles, thank you so much for sparing some time to be a guest with us. I love your message. And again, folks, like Charles just said, if you don't already follow this guy on LinkedIn or any other channel where he is active, do yourself a favor and do so you can get in touch with Charles and Antis Roofing and Waterproofing. That is it for another edition of Opali Presents Know Your Pros. Charles, thank you so much for being our guest today.
Thanks, Henry. This was awesome. I love the energy we started with, and we're leaving on the same thing. I'm even going to sing one more Thai love song. Here it goes. Oh, yarak yachak pi pai. That's all you get. More next time.
Know Your Pros!